Hi, this is Tara with Love Prevails, and thank you again for joining us today. I'm still trying to work through my technological issues, but I hope everybody had a really nice weekend. I have a friend of mine, Paula, here today to talk about her sobriety journey. I know Paula is a good person because my dog, who does not let anybody hold her, is letting Paula hold her. So that's always a good sign. How are you, Paula?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I really thank you for being here today and, talking about your story. And, I hope you had a really nice weekend.
I did have a great weekend. I worked, but it was a good weekend. So
that's good.
How was yours?
I had a good one. I had my oldest daughter here, and we put up our Christmas tree. And very early, if you know me, I do not intermingle the holidays at all. But this year, I wanted to put my Christmas tree up a little bit early so I could do it with one of my girls. So I was super excited about that. So my house is decorated for Christmas, but I'm not ready to show it off quite yet because it's a little early. But Paula, I asked you to come today to talk about your journey. So with Love Prevails, I am reaching out to people with peer support services and intervention services because I want to, I have a strong desire to work with people that are struggling with addiction. I want to show them how they can get help. The people that are struggling, their families, their loved ones. It's a tough disease, and I have a real heart for people that are struggling and their families because of my own personal journey, and not only with my own sobriety, but with my girls. And I want everybody to know that help is available. It's just a quick message away. Again, my email address is down below. I'd love for you to check out my website. It's still under construction, but it looks really good, and I'm very proud of it. Paula, go ahead and share with us what brought you into sobriety and why do you stay?
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I will start kind of with a quick in the past. I am the youngest of 3 kids. My brother and sister are older than me. I think it's like a 5 or 6 year gap in there. But my sister struggles with addiction with drugs, and my brother struggles with alcoholism. And growing up, I was very adamant that I did not want to be like my brother and sister because I saw the struggles that they had when I was little. Fast forward now to adulthood. Now I have my kids, and I actually didn't drink. Dog doesn't want to go with you. Sorry, but I actually didn't start drinking heavy until later on. I could go years. I could even, I didn't drink very much. But then my youngest child actually started struggling with a lot of different things. And I don't want to say it's one thing over another. I do think it's more difficult now to be a child than it was, let's say, when I was, with all the social media and that kind of stuff. But she struggles with an eating disorder, and she also struggles with drug addiction and a few other things. So, and actually, and self-harm was the other big one. So when that started to happen, I self-medicated with alcohol, and because I used that as my way to sleep. My brain just couldn't shut down, and I had to work full time, and I am in the military. So at that time, I was really trying to hold up, what I needed to for my job. And I didn't want anybody to know what was going on with me. I then started drinking pretty heavy when my daughter was really going into a dark place. At the time, she was 14 or 15 years old. Then, long story, I don't want to say long story short, but my oldest child is the one who came to me and was like, "Mom, you're drinking too much." And because of him, I made a promise that I would stop drinking. I did try once, and I think I made it about 2 months without drinking, and then I went right back to it. And then I realized that I needed to get some help. So thankfully, because my daughter was trying to go through the recovery process as well, I kind of used her as my clutch to get sober, and we decided to do the journey together. I will say that when I decided to get sober, I wasn't doing it for me at first. I was doing it for my kid. I wanted to lead by example. I wanted to do all the right things, and because I didn't want my daughter to die. So I figured if I can be sober and show her the way it should be, then maybe she would continue to do the same. Right. So that's kind of what got me sober was my kids. And now I can honestly say that I am sober for myself. I am happy, and I can, just the feeling that I get inside, I can't even describe it. My husband and I get along really well. My family, as far as I know, from what they've told me, they can see a difference in me. My work, they notice a difference in me. I'm just a much better person, due to my past. I definitely don't shut the door on my past. I'm very grateful for my past. Because of that, I now know, kind of like a bad boss. And you know that you know what not to do now because of that person that was bad. And you know that boss that was really good, you know what you want from that boss. So that's the kind of the way I even look at, my struggle with alcoholism, is that I don't want to go down that path again. So I choose to continue to be sober and live that, that life right now. Right. And a lot of things have just been have been so great because of me being sober. People are trusting me again. I've got the best relationship with my daughter right now. And even though she is not sober, she is still struggling with many things. Even with that, her and I, we're best friends. So, and if it wasn't for me being sober, she wouldn't, I wouldn't be here, or our relationship together wouldn't be where it is.
I love that. I can't even imagine what it would be like growing up with all the computers and the cell phones and, a new way of bullying. I know, having raised kids with all of that, they have you can hide so much of what's going on. And, as a parent, you don't have a clue. Drugs and alcohol and anything you want is right at your fingertips. Video games, the lack of socialization, and of course I can only speak with my own personal experience and, and of things that I've gone through with myself. I can't even imagine. I look back to growing up and not having cell phones and things like that. My parents couldn't track me. How they knew where I was, I don't know. I mean, they were just I don't know how they always found me. But I don't know what I do without being able to track the kids now. But I can't even imagine. And there's a lot of things that go on with social media that really have hurt our kids. And then your kids going through COVID, and those are just a few things. Then there's all the other things that happen to our kids. And with me, I didn't really have a clue what was going on. I knew some of it, but I didn't get sober because of my kids. I get sober because of me. And then when I got serious about getting sober, you had mentioned being best friends with your daughter. Through working through my process, I was able to respond to my kids in love instead of, just breaking that cycle, because Lord knows I wasn't a bad mom, but I wasn't a perfect mom, and I definitely made a lot of mistakes. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to start fixing those mistakes and doing things differently. And so it sounds like, did you have that same experience with your daughter?
I did. What, not to say, I'll say my rock bottom in a sense was we were not close because I was always so grown up in that military type of family. It was you're going to do as I say,
Mhm.
and this is it. You don't have a voice. It was very, this is it.
Mhm.
There's no ands, ifs, buts about it. And I kind of was, I don't want to say kind of, I was like that with my kids.
Mhm.
So my daughter and I did not have a relationship. And I remember getting into a huge fight with her. And I was hammered. I was so drunk. And then she got into a situation where at home that I would not have been able to help my daughter if it ended up being more serious. And it could have been more serious.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been able to drive my daughter. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. And I mean, yes, I could have called 911 and my husband was home. But for me internally, I would not be able to do that. Fast forward now, I don't yell at my daughter anymore.
Mhm.
I can stay calm. And last week, we ran into a situation where she was visiting and things didn't turn out the way that I wanted it, the way that I expected. And what they say, expectations breed disaster. And I did have some expectations, and that was I don't want to say failure on my part, because it was just a mistake that I made. But I didn't yell at my daughter, and we actually were able to still finish out the last few days together
Mhm.
and talk calmly, and that was due to me being sober.
Right.
And she knows that now. She knows she can trust me. If I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Where in the past, it was all those lies.
Yeah.
That's all we did was lie.
Mhm.
Lie to, get what we needed.
Lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
All the hiding of the alcohol, and I'm not drinking that much.
Yeah.
I'll fill a little bit up.
I'll quit after I drink, after this.
Yeah. It was bad.
Yeah. It's you can laugh at it now.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm grateful I can laugh at it. And I just remember thinking when I was around other people that were sober, and I would see them laughing, and I was like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
How can you even be having fun? And now I laugh at myself. And again, I don't shut the door on my past. I'm grateful for it, because I just know where I don't want to be anymore.
Yeah. I had a similar situation with my daughter just this weekend where she wanted to have a tough conversation, and it was really tough. And I was able to tell her, we're not going to see eye to eye on this, and it has to be okay. And we have to be able to disagree without being angry. And I have to work on my part. You got to work on your part, and we have to just agree to disagree and be able to move on. And that has to be okay. It has to be okay. Yeah. And I never really hid alcohol, but I hide food. I do that even now. I hide food. I hoard food. And we were on the train at the Royal Gorge, and I was asking my daughter, do you want to go back in now? Do you want to go back in now? She's like, no, I don't want to miss out on anything. Why do you want to go back in? And I said, I don't want to go back in, but my food is sitting on the chair. and it's unsupervised.
Okay.
And I said, and that's the only reason why I want to go back in. And so my daughter told me, I think you need to pray to have that affliction taken from you. I'm like, gonna do it. So yeah, I love being able to talk program with my kids now, and being around people that understand it.
I did hear you just say the word pray. That was one of my biggest struggles. And I will say that I was raised Catholic, but I'm not Catholic anymore. And when religion, my family would bring up religion and stuff, and I really struggled with that part of it.
Yeah.
And I will say now, I'm not religious, but I have a peace. I feel peace, and whatever that is, that's what helps me, and I'll take that.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I do pray every once in a while, and it makes me think of like with the holidays coming up, for example. I know that this can. I'm really nervous about the holidays personally. With the loss of my mother, it will be the first time. So grief, comes along with that, and I know right now a lot of people are going to struggle with the holidays.
Right.
And I just hope that whoever is watching and knows that you're not alone. That we all struggle, and just reach out to somebody, because I know I'm going to have to. I've been like this for the past few months, and knowing that I have like you and other people to reach out to has been huge for keeping me sober. I will be honest.
Well, make sure you reach out to me, because the holidays are going to be tough for me this year too, and I'm preparing for them now. I'm going to be a lonely loner this year, so please reach out to me. You mentioned, praying and stuff like that, and that was really tough for me too. I grew up a Baptist preacher's daughter in a super strict, independent Baptist home, and rethinking who, I know that higher power is a term used by a lot of people. I do define mine as God, but I had to rethink who God was. And, for me, the way I remember being raised, my God was very vengeful, and it was constant repent, for every little thought, every little thing. You never, I could never reach that. I thought I was surrendering and things like that, but boy, I repented all the time. And, and I just felt like everything that happened in my life, God let happen because he hated me, not and because he was got me kicked out of watching me struggle, not because he loved me by any means. And so I was super bitter, very, very bitter. I didn't trust God anymore. And so I had to rethink that, and watch where you put your foot, and come to terms with God didn't allow these things to happen to me. My decisions and my fighting against God is what allowed things to happen to me. And so I had to rethink that, and that was tough for sure.
Yeah. I had mentioned to you before, and I wasn't going to bring this up here, but because of what you're doing, and then I'm trying to do something similar within my work, to help people that are struggling with different things, because it's not just about, alcoholism. Like I said, my kid struggles with the eating disorder and self-harm and the drug addiction, but I'm struggling right now with grief. And, we all struggle with something at some point. So I think this is amazing that you're doing this, because it really, we all need somebody just to talk to that can relate.
Right.
And that's why I'm even trying to do my thing
Mm-hmm.
and within my workforce. So
Yeah, I hope that does really well. I know I didn't know how to get out to reach out for help. I didn't know that there was anybody going through the same things that I was going through. I felt very alone, and for that reason, this was really hard for me to come out so publicly because I kept it very close to my vest. I didn't talk about my sobriety with anybody, and I just realized there are so many people that don't know how to get help and where to get help. And if they talk about attraction rather than promotion, and I believe in that full-heartedly. Your life and your actions are what is going to attract people. But if I'm being secret about the things that I have struggled with, and if I didn't know where to go and how to get help, then how many people out there don't know where to go and how to get help? And so that's my purpose with starting Love Prevails, and for being so public. This is not easy for me. It's very uncomfortable. Definitely, I get off of these videos all the time and think, oh my gosh, I made the biggest fool of myself. But the truth is, if I'm struggling, then there's other people that are struggling. If I don't know how to get help, then there's other people that don't know how to get help. And so I feel that this is just where my life is leading me. And I hope that, my higher power does use me in people's lives, and that I'm able to help people. And so far I've gotten a lot of really great response. And I really commend people for being so public with me and sharing their stories, because your story does help other people. And if there is anybody else out there that would like to share your story, please message me. I'd love to interview you, because the truth is that there are people out there that are going through the same things that you went through, but they don't know how to get help. And so please like, share, comment, post, because you're helping other people by doing that. And, your best life is just out there waiting to happen. And reach out to me through my website, reach out to me through Messenger, and we're going to find it together. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me.
And I want to give you a hug. And definitely keep in contact with me through the holidays. And
Yes, 100%.
definitely love to be there for you. All right. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday, enjoys the rest of their week. And thank you for watching. And I hope that you have a great day. Let's see. There you go.